placing transgender persons under invasive scrutiny by administrative and medical bodies. This is in violation of the golden trinity of fundamental rights, that is Articles 14, equality before the law, Article 19, 1A, freedom of expression, and Article 21, right to life, dignity, and personal liberty. It also violates the rights provided under the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019, as well as binding legal jurisprudence on privacy, dignity, bodily autonomy, and self-determination. Such state control on gender identification is not exercised on cisgender individuals, making the bill discriminatory. It narrows the definition of transgender to exclude trans women and trans men, trans masculine and trans feminine persons, erases genderqueer and non-binary identities, and conflates intersex variations with gender identity, reflecting a lack of scientific and social understanding. It reduces lived realities to biological criteria while ignoring the complex intersections of caste, class, religion, culture, disability, and region that shape gender marginalization in India. Equally concerning is the introduction of penal provisions that criminalize vaguely defined acts such as alluring or forcing someone to become transgender, despite no evidence of such patterns. This revives colonial era logics that historically criminalized gender non-conformity under laws like the Criminal Tribes Act 1871 and similar legislation. Such provisions risk enabling harassment through malicious complaints targeting transgender persons, their support systems, families, and community networks. Trans individuals typically lead precarious lives, often depending on the support of community groups and NGOs for their survival. The amendment criminalizes individuals, NGOs, support groups, services, and networks that seek to support transgender individuals, including supportive families and friends of transgender children, doctors who might offer gender-affirming care, mental health practitioners, shelter homes, schools, emergency responders, and gharanas, with punishment ranging from 5 years to 14 years. This bill impedes our access to life-saving care and health services by gatekeeping medical treatments like hormone replacement therapy, mastectomies, orchiectomies, etc. It further violates the rights of intersex people, the same people that it claims to protect, by linking medical intervention to legal recognition, thereby impeding bodily autonomy. In doing this, the state effectively views intersex people as bodies that require correction to fit the binary of men and women. By introducing barriers to recognition and care, the amendment stands in direct contradiction of the principles and protections guaranteed under the Mental Health Care Act 2017. The requirement of external validation through medical boards fundamentally misunderstands the nature of gender identity. Gender identity is not contingent on institutional proof, but is a lived experience. I repeat that, gender identity is not contingent on institutional proof, but is a lived experience. Imposing a burden of proof on transgender identities is therefore not protective. It is stigma reframed as regulation. Therefore makes for a significant overreach of state power, moving beyond transgender and queer rights, extending into a broader erosion of civil liberties and personal autonomy. In Goa, the threat from these amendments doesn't land out of context. Only in 2023, we suffered a significant loss with the death of activist Diana Diaz, a trans woman and founder of Wajud, an organization that worked with the transgender community in Goa. Caused by systemic violence and medical negligence and natal family violence, her death stands as a stark reminder of the state's failure to protect transgender communities. A regressive national law that bases itself on trans medicalism, that is the idea that gender identity must be validated through medical or biological criteria, will not only fail to protect transgender people, but further exploit existing vulnerabilities. Shame! 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 The This movement calls for collective response, especially in the context of a government that has slowly been stripping away the rights of various marginalized groups. The repercussions of this bill will reverberate far beyond the transgender community. It calls into question fundamental rights and democratic values, determining who has the right to control one's body and identity, and whether the state may lawfully exercise bureaucratic and medical authority to supersede personal autonomy. We urge the people of Goa to use your online and offline forums to carry forward our demand for the categorical rejection of the amendment bill. We want the amendment bill to be withdrawn, and please join us as we publicly oppose the bill and advocate for community-led consultation processes. Amplify the voices of transgender activists and collectives demanding accountability in the implementation of the existing Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act of 2019, including setting up of welfare boards, shelter homes, and access to effective and quality health care, along with the demand for horizontal reservations for trans persons, protection from discrimination at the workplace and beyond. As the bill is set to be discussed in the Lok Sabha in the coming week, starting tomorrow, we urge every single one of you to use the web address which is there in the public statement, which you can get free copies of. Like write to your representatives. It's like thanks to Zina, we have Zina Sagar, who has been coordinating things across India, and they have made it very easy for us. The template is available right there. Go in, sign, and let the MPs know that we are not alone in this one, that the people are with us, that we are not going to stay silent. Woo! We reject a future built upon exclusion, regression, and control. Together, we can create a principled path forward, upholding autonomy, empowerment, and justice for all. Jai Bhim, Inkulab Zindabad, Amkanaka Trans Amendment Bill. Amkanaka, Amkanaka. Amkanaka, Amkanaka.
Statement.
Jai Bhim, Jai Bhim. It's me again. I'm sorry. We would like to set the context further by having some people among us talk about our personal journeys, and particularly in the context of being a trans person in Goa. So I'll start it off. Yeah. Once again, I'm Arubi. I'm a trans woman. Surprise, surprise. I'm pursuing my PhD in philosophy at Goa University. And I have been in Goa for more than 5 years. And this land, which feels home to me, has also sustained and nurtured my trans self, my trans identity. As it keeps holding my personhood together. It is almost commonsensical that the bill is an assault on the gender diverse populace of this country, legal experts, human rights defenders, and people from the community and allies have already unpacked the bill clause by clause to say why the bill is utterly undemocratic and unconstitutional. So what I would like to talk to you about is this. If the bill is introduced, what happens to me, the individual standing before you, and by extension, my friends, my family, and allied life-saving healthcare providers? I hold a transgender identity card issued by the District Magistrate of North Goa under provisions of the 2019 Act. If this amendment bill becomes law, it would imply, since I'm neither an intersex person nor initiated into the limited socio-cultural identities like Hijra, Kinnar, Jogta, or Aravani, it would imply one thing, that I am a person, quote, who has been by force, allurement, inducement, deceit, or undue influence, either with or without consent, compelled to assume, adopt, or outwardly present a transgender identity by mutilation, emasculation, castration, amputation, or any surgical, chemical, or hormonal procedure, or otherwise, unquote. Boy, has somebody sat with a thesaurus. My autonomy and right to self-determination are already robbed from me and replaced by an infantilizing passivity where I am incapable of consenting to my own right to expression, hence the phrase, either with or without consent, compelled, in the same breath. So now the state has already decided that I have been forced, with or without consent, compelled to express my self-identity as a transgender woman. It doesn't stop there, it gets worse from here. So now, who compelled me, who forced me, who allured me, who deceived me, who unduly influenced me with or without my consent, who compelled me to assume a transgender identity? Who has given me chemical or hormonal procedures or otherwise? Is it my psychiatrist who diagnosed me with gender dysphoria? Is it my endocrinologist who supports me with literal life-saving, gender-affirming hormone replacement therapy? Is it my trans friends who go to all extents to keep me alive and remind me that there are so many ways of existing beyond the gender binary that was forcefully thrust upon my body without my consent? Is it my cis women friends who hold me always close together in sisterhood? Is it my family of origin who after much struggle now recognize and affirm me as Aruvi, as a trans woman? Or is it that one friend of mine who even before I came out to her had dreamed of me being trans? The answer? All of the above and some more, many more, are culpable anywhere between 5 to 14 years and a fine which goes on to lakhs. Every single one of you who are here are also made culpable because you are forcing me, alluring me to affirm my own gender identity. How does that sound? Shame! Shame! My dear friends, can you imagine being imprisoned for 14 years for just affirming a person's gender identity? Be it your friend or a family member or anybody else for that matter. That is how ridiculous the bill is. So the state will now put my entire support system in prison, and of course, it is going to put me in prison as well, for enticing, alluring, compelling, unduly influencing my very trans friends, with or without their consent, to adopt a transgender identity. We're all going to prison. The state ignorantly claims that the 2019 Act is meant to protect only quote-unquote genuine transgender persons. So what am I? What am I? What am I? What am I? Do you not find it genuine that I could not betray myself by living a gender reality that was not mine? Do you not find it genuine that I took responsibility for myself and came out as a trans woman? Do you not find it genuine that I take myself to places as who I am? Do you not find it genuine that I have left a life which felt like lies, buried it, and started over, thinking it's either this or death? Oh, and I'm a PhD scholar who thinks about the very question of authenticity. How ironic. My life and research compel me to say, authenticity itself is not one but many. How then does the state define who an authentic trans person is? That too in two subclauses, of which one of that commits the fallacy of a circular definition. Ignorance at its peak. In the state's eyes then, I would not be a genuine transgender person. It is not difficult to see the pattern here. The patriarchal, paternalizing state tells me, no, you are forced to become trans. You are a victim trans. Nevertheless, you still go to jail. The state always knows what is best for its citizens. Does the despotism sound familiar? That the state always knows what is best for its citizens. The chief economic advisor of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment for the welfare schemes for transgender persons was reported saying yesterday to a National Council of Transgender Persons member, we did not find the need to consult the council on the bill. The National Council, which was constituted under the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights 2019, they did not find the need to consult the members because we know what needs to be done. Shame! Shame! Shame on you, Yogita Swarup. The arrogance is scary. The arrogance is scary. We know what needs to be done. We know what you are. We know who's genuine, who's not. They say we know because it is we who decide what gender is. You have read Simone de Beauvoir, you have read Judith Butler, you have read Sandy Stone, you have read Julia Serrano, you have read Sarah Ahmed, you have read insert any queer or trans theorist here that you have read. They're all culpable now. But lucky for them, we do not have international jurisdiction. We have left that to other fascists like Trump. So yes, the state says, we know what you are, we know who's genuine, who's not, we know, because it is we who decide what gender is. If we want to cut hills and convert them into settlements, we are capable of redefining what a hill or a slope is. And I'm sure that is all too familiar for us folks in Goa. I would also like to add here, Amkanaka 39A. That is state control of bodies extending to nature. I'm bound to remind everyone that more often than not, definitions are antithetical to lived experience. Now what happens to me if this bill is passed? And my endocrinologist says that, no, I do not want to go to prison for your sake, so I can no longer prescribe you the HRT which you need to get through your life without killing yourself. What if every endo sends me away saying the same thing? I still remember the day when, more than 2 years back, I went to apply for name and gender change in my Azad card. I did not think it would be possible. So when it happened, as I was coming back home, I could not help but stop along the fields of Bastora and gaze into the horizon and say, nothing will be the same from now. I'm anxious and scared at the conditions of possibility that are open for me now. I acknowledge my accessibility. I feel free. Yes, I told myself I feel free. By taking my rightful recognition away, the state would once again alienate me and persecute me socially, taking my freedom away and erasing my life world. Also, if the bill comes to pass, I can no longer access the gender-affirming surgery which I have been telling myself I'll get once I finish my PhD. For I would no longer be recognized as a transgender person. For the amendment bill does not consider trans women as transgender persons genuine enough to be protected. A well-wisher from the district collectorate once remarked, "Arvi, your transgender ID card is like your second birth certificate." These words still resonate with me, now stronger than ever. One birth certificate already has my dead name, and the second birth certificate which has my name will be rendered invalid. Is the amendment bill not then my death certificate? Is the amendment bill not our death certificate? So I leave you with our demand, Amkanaka Trans Amendment Bill, Amkanaka Trans Amendment Bill, and please say it with me once, Amkanaka, Amkanaka, Amkanaka. Devarikara.
Thank you so much, Aruvi. Let's please clap in solidarity. Next we have Carol, a fashion designer who will share her experience of being with Wajood and the experience that she had.
Thank you, Andy. Today I am here not as a fashion designer, just as a part of the community. And it's my first time here at Azad Maidan also speaking. But this is the time where we have to stand up for the community. And I would like to speak about specifically relating to Diana. This was in 2017 when we had the first Goa's trans organization. She had started in presence of Albertina Albita and Peter Borges, Wendell Rodrigues. And trust me, it was very difficult for her initially to start. I was there for the inaugural. And after that, she did her advocacy consultancy, both in and outside Goa, specifically for the trans, gender non-conforming, non-binary, especially for the youngsters. But unfortunately, today she is not there. We lost her in 2023, January, after losing contact with her in the second wave of COVID. So today, in respect to her, she would have been playing I was close to her, and she would have been playing a lead role here, because she was not, now according to the bill, we are supposed to be in any one of the traditional communities, or we need to undergo the medical procedures, which she was not part. She was exposed to the traditional communities, but she was never part of those communities. And but she had the certification, she had a transgender certificate, she had the Aadhaar card, she had the voter card. And now this new bill, this completely alters, it leaves a whole section of us out. And specifically in Goa, since we don't have we had been separated from the Indian Union, and we were colonized in the Portuguese in this, we don't have the traditional communities here. So it is specifically, it implies to us here. And what is disheartening is Diana being a very powerful activist, someone very vocal, okay, and but still, family, when the time came for the help during the second wave of the COVID, she was quite left alone. Like, there were very few people who were there. In fact, I myself met her 2 years later after losing track of her in the Institute of Psychiatry in Goa, the IPHB. And trust me, we didn't even have the staff there which was sensitized for this. And because of her own advocacy, we got a place for her in the female ward itself. I think that is the first time. Otherwise, they put the trans persons along with the men. And this is where the state of the trans rights in Goa is. And thankfully, because of her, we got that. And During the COVID time that she had the work, we had distributed rations. She saved a trans person. Some trans person had actually died. She had to carry out the funeral rites of the trans person. And unfortunately, we lost her, and we also lost Virtue, Goa's only trans organization led by a trans woman. And I could not myself devote to it fully because I was already occupied. Yeah, so with reference to all this, what is if this thing can happen to a trans activist, you know, and they are putting this bill, and we'll lose a person like her. So what's the point of this bill for us? You know, the huge chunk, like the non-binary, we are here because of the gender dysphoria, and we know what it is to go through the gender dysphoria. And now how do we, to prove that, do we actually have to go through a surgery? It should not be, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think when the government does creates bill laws for the community, I think they should consult the community, the very community which they are making the laws. Otherwise, we will have response like this. Nothing direct against the government, but consider us, and especially when it comes to Goa. Do we have our native speakers here? Konkani? Koni Goemkar Azad anga? Okay. So, especially for Goa, I think it's very much needful for us ki aware जावपाक जाय. It's the right time. Amta न्हू जाल्यार केन्नाच न्हू. So I think as laymen, I'll thank everyone who is gathered here from the community, allies, activists, media, even the police is guarding us, protecting. So, and I just hope we go through this well and we manage to get, in fact, we should get, right?
Yes.
Okay, good for the response. And I'll say that definitely Bill Amka Naka. Actually, Amkan's Naka's bill, because there is no point in context of Goa. I don't know how it will help us. And I'll just take care everyone and thank you.
Apologies, we misgendered Harold when Harold went up. They use their pronouns. In case someone's reaching out to them, please try and make it a point. I just want to request everybody, if we can take a moment of silence for Diana and all the trans ancestors who we've lost, on whose shoulders our fight stands, on whose shoulders we stand, our lives become possible. Yeah, if folks who can stand, please stand. If you can't stand, please stay sitting. But if you can join in a moment of silence, that would be nice. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Harold. I think as Harold said, ask us before you make laws about our bodies. There's not a single trans person who wants this bill. Then why the hell have you tied this around our necks? Next we have Aryan, who's a mental health professional. They'll share with us.
Hi, My name is Aryan and I'm a trans man. I'm also a mental health professional. So today I'm going to speak about how basically तोड़फोड़ करेंगे medical system का. That's what we're going to do today. So first things first. So the makers of the bill fear trans people because they don't understand trans people. Is that true? No. But they are afraid of flourishing lives of trans people because visible and happy trans people will make everyone question oppressive gender norms that they have agreed to. So I'm not going to be here scared and say why you didn't see me. I know why you didn't, because you are a coward. We will speak about the fear and the paranoia that the government has, that they are projecting on us, right? So fear and the paranoia is making them question who real trans person is. And then who is getting, we are all influenced by the West. We are influenced by West, that's why we have trains. If we weren't, I don't know where, probably we will still be on bullock carts. So let's talk about what influence it could be like. First, we'll go with the medical that the bill says about that we have to get the medical practitioner who will decide of who we are. Now, when we study medicine, medicine has always spoken about the biological sex. Man, woman, like not man, woman, but male, female, and intersex, right? So my point is that when you have no idea what gender is about psychosocial. Gender is about the lived experience. So stay in the lane. You don't even qualify. This is not your expertise. Please go out. Yeah, that's the other thing. But the point that we are saying that medical and biological essentialism on understanding what transness is in itself influenced by their fear, is influenced by their threat, that they are scared, so scared that they want to violate and use every system against us. Second, the expertise that they are talking about, they can't be trusted. No matter what medical fraternity institute you talk about has always been influenced by what the Supreme Court is saying. Supreme Court came up with criminalizing 377. Everyone is criminal. Psychiatrist wrote about it. Medical fraternity wrote about it. When it was read down, suddenly we all became, oh no, all this is normal. So no, you are only not, you have lost your insanity, like you have lost your sanity. On what basis are you going to judge us who we are? We can't trust you. You are not in your sane mind because you are influenced. And then you are saying we are influenced. You are influenced by the politics, by the religion, by everything else that's around you. So you are not trustable, and hence, ये मेरी expertise नहीं है, so I'm not going to get into it. That's what you need to learn to say. They don't know, and I have, so the research that we did 3 years ago on 3 cities, where we found out the results that said like the psychiatrists, therapists themselves didn't know what and why they are doing. It was just the protocol that they followed, and you can check all those quotes in our trans mental health care guidelines that had come out, and you can download that on the TIS website, which will have all the quotes saying that they don't know what they are doing and they are just doing it because they are fearful. So, and then we are also very much going against the ICD, WPATH, IPATH, all of these organizations, and especially when we were the ones in the UN convention, we said that we believe and we know and we acknowledge that there is psychosocial disability, and then we are ourselves going against it. Because transness, gender, oppression, all of this is psychosocial disability. So we ourselves don't know what we are talking about. So the bill itself is contradicting its own stance at the national and the international level. And then of course fear leads to medicalization and pathologizing. So now they are trying to find the gene that got us influenced. Second, the point is the gender affirmation surgeries and gender affirmation care. When we talk about that, talking about gender affirmation, we can't just be talking about it in the medical terms, which I've clearly said. That it has nothing to do with medical, it has nothing to do with medicine. They can only come after. When we say we need you to do our surgeries, not before to legitimize or validate. Because it's not your expertise, it's not, you don't learn gender. So leave that up to us. Hence the gender affirmation care becomes the part of preventive care, preventive and life-saving, I forgot the word, I'm nervous. So it becomes the life-saving surgery as an essential and not an elective in that sense, which also we are very broadly talking about it in our research. Okay, so mental health services cannot be seen as medical or physical, but actually psychosocial services. So what are we actually trying to do by saying that it is medical and this is biological and blah, 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 etc. We are saying that absolutely withholding the services. And by withholding, we are actually saying that we are going to discriminate. We are going to discriminate. We are going to say that because you are this, we'll not offer you. We will not give you services, we will not support you, we will not love you, you're not worth it, you are not good enough, you are bad, you don't look like this, you don't suffer like this. You don't come into our stereotype of vulnerable, abla, trans people. So we don't give you that, and that is absolutely discrimination.
Shame!
Shame. By this you are also putting trans people to then access illegal services, unqualified professions, and we all know how many unqualified professions that are there. We are all, even after having Nalsa judgment, Trans Act, we still go to surgeries and the surgeries are not good enough. So then we'll be forced to go to unethical practitioners, right? So that again means that you are pushing us to death, like my trans sibling just said. So we will be forced to go to these places. So then choose and be into the constant dilemma of safety over my life. I can only either be safe and not go to these spaces, or die, or live. Live, which will finally get me to depression, anxiety, panic, suicidal, bullying, harassment, etc. Then we're also saying that you need to be fearful to reach out to medical practitioners, mental health practitioners. So you're pushing us to be fearful to access these services, and not just push, but also threatening our support systems to come. मैं तेरे को support नहीं करेगा, तू तेरे को भी support करने नहीं दूँगा. What is this threat? This is only coming because you're fearful. You're fearful that we have the capacity to live with happiness, with our choice. And by all of this, when we talk about therapy, because that's my subject, we are saying that it is absolutely going against the basic framework of therapy, because therapy is all about confidentiality and access of care, also according to the Mental Health Care Act 2017. Please go through this. This act says that the person needs to access care without being discriminated. All services, including social, sexual, social, psychosocial disabilities, all come into the access of care under the Mental Health Act. So, furthermore, the other point that has been raised in the bill is about including parents and doctors, who will be basically deciding who we are. Historically, and also there are n number of studies that have been done where we have proved, there are results which says that the first violence that happens is in the homes. The first people who violate us are our own homes. And also doctors. There are a number of studies that talk about how abusive and how we are known, the structures are known to misuse of power. So my question is that then why are they even there in the bill? What are you even trying to tell us? So अभी ऐसा तूने तेरी मम्मी को बताया क्या तू ट्रांस है? मम्मी को बताया, पापा को बताया? What are you trying to do? Is to indulge in to put fear into us. Why? Because they are scared of our happiness, of our audacity to live, of who we are. So it is very much against the basic ethical framework of therapy and any kind of health care that we are having in this country. Another point which I feel is very important that we don't talk about is how then we are also putting us state-sanctioned conversion therapy that will come up. Detransition therapies, detransition care, all of this will be sanctioned by the state to put you back into your place. So this is of course going to result in the mental health crisis, depression, anxiety, suicidality, ostracization, isolation, which is a single most factor which leads to suicidal ideation. So now you are saying that you are ready for people to handle, for the structures to handle the mental health care crisis. Even existing mental health care gap is 90%. So are you ready? तुम्हारे में है क्या? हम तो कर लेंगे, तुम करोगे. Will you be able to help us, support us to detransition, to take care of us? No, you don't have it in you. And the last point which I feel is very important for me and for all the trans men and also other gender diverse population is that you are forcing us to choose between my citizenship and me. So now you are saying if I get raped tomorrow or if I get hurt, I've been violated. So if I go to the police, I go to the doctor. So are they going to see me as a citizen of this country or as a trans person? So you are saying that now I have to choose. That am I an Indian citizen who pays taxes, who votes, who puts everything possible to be in this country as a sane citizen and a contributing citizen. And then you are saying that, no, sorry, you are not. So it's about your convenience and your fear and actually about my right. So you are forcing us to now choose that am I going to be a citizen of this country or a trans person? This is the biggest violation that the state can do and the government can do. So it is just not about the quest of the authentic self or who is authentic. No, the deeper question is, are you a citizen of this country or not? Do you qualify to be a citizen of this country or not? So this is not just about my authenticity of trans, but my statehood, my citizenship. Thank you.
Thank you, Aryan. That was really helpful. Next we have Zina Sagar. She is one of the first trans women producers. Zina is one of the first trans women producers coming from a Dalit background and a trans rights activist. She is coordinating a large-scale campaign against this bill nationally. Thank you for your efforts, Zina.
I want to take this moment to breathe. Just for a moment, just for 2 seconds. And I want you to breathe with me. So you're going to close your eyes. Just for 5 seconds, not much. And you're going to take deep breaths. You're going to inhale, you're going to exhale, and you're going to remember Diana Diaz. You're going to remember her face, you're going to remember her voice if you've seen her. in news channels. You're going to draw from her power that she had when she was going in the streets of Goa, erupting from Vajood, which was erupting from her Vajood, which was powerful, and she drawed from something unique. We are all drawing from that power today. The power of action, power of change, power of belief. These three words that she stood for. And I think till her dying breath, as a trans sister, I feel that she also stood for these, even while she was breathing her last breath. You know, what will happen to my people? What will I do? Right. And with this backdrop, I stand here today, drawing from the same power. Standing here, I feel more Azad because of her. I feel like I'm channeling something that existed before me. Something that moved through her when she stepped into the streets of Goa. Hello everyone, my name is Zina. I'm a Dalit woman of trans experience, and I want to begin with simple statement that B.R. Ambedkar made long back. Educate, agitate, and organize. And this is why we are here today. For a long time, I found myself questioning my womanhood. I have had a difficult relationship with life for as long as I can remember. I came out when I was 27, and I'm 30 now, so it's been 3 years. I was born in Jaipur. I left everything behind and moved to Calcutta to start an entirely new journey in media. I was a cost accountant before, then I came into media, then I had to work my through it. I was part of this institution called Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, where I was the first one apparently, and I had to go through so much because I was denied hostel there. Then I had to write to ministry letters, you know, just give me my right, give me my dignity, and say all these words again. By the way, it was all coming from 2014 judgment, so go figures, right? So that's how it began. And since then, since 3 years have been continuous battle of discovery, challenges, explorations. But here we are standing here, still breathing, just like you all did right now. And we are drawing from the same breath again. We are remembering that we are alive and we are here to thrive. I also saw people like me stepping out into the world and creating. I saw people loving each other openly. I saw women holding hands and not calling it friendship. I saw individuals choosing to live as they had imagined themselves to be. And slowly, something shifted inside me while I was there. Now, I'm going to switch to, which is not a speech that I prepared, but I'm going to speak from my heart, because I think this is where it is coming from. I had to file a case in Calcutta High Court while I was in Calcutta, where they said that even though I have a trans ID, I should not get the F binary marker. Why? Because I have not had surgery. Because I have not undergone certain changes that the law requires for me to go. It was already there, by the way, it's a new thing. It's not a new thing, it always existed in the law itself. And I've been fighting that case for 2 years now. It has not moved anywhere. And now with this new inception of Transgender Bill 2026 amendment, such a beautiful, precarious, technical name that they have created again, we have again found ourselves going back to the 1872 Criminal Tribes Act, which Britishers created long back, to encircle us, to capture us, to make us our own prisoners, so that our cultures and histories can't be created, so that we face extinction from the South Asian continent as human beings. We don't exist yet. Even after that, even after so many years, we exist and we are here. And this is the testament to that. While saying this, I wanted to boost our morals also, because I think we know that the bill is bad. And we also know that the bill has certain technical changes that you can all read from against the bill page that we have created. But I want to speak from my heart and say that there's a possibility that bill might go through. There's a possibility. What happens then? I'm saying. What happens then? We are not going to give up. We are going to keep continuing our fight. We are going to keep continuing our rights, asking for our rights. We are going to keep saying what we are saying right now. We are going to amplify our voices as louder as possible. We are going to say no, and we are going to write to our MPs saying that we do not want this bill because 15,000 people have already written. That means India is listening. You know how many people are? 15,000 people. We are merely, I think, 300 people here. Imagine this whole Maidan getting filled, and even the whole Panjim market. That many people we have who has supported us. And that's amazing. More are writing. There's public hearing taking place right now in Delhi with member of parliaments, where people are representing their views, they are putting forth statements. And all of us are trying to gather this movement to create some sort of chain. A chain that says that we fully, as people of this country, as people of one of the largest democratic republic in South Asia, which stands at 140 CR in population, right? We single-handedly reject this bill. And even in this, not in its partiality, but in its entirety, as it's existent. I think it is a great disaster if country does not follow its own democratic processes. Like how National Council of Transgender persons were not consulted before while drafting this bill. And it is a great travesty that we are seeing this right now. And I think it is also in some ways how Library of Alexandria was burned and the knowledge was completely lost from the face of the earth. We created institutions to help ourselves live better lives, but we stand at a juncture where we cannot even articulate our thought, where we have to define our genders from our ID cards, where I have to say that, you know, I take hormones, that's why I'm a woman. So please give me F. But I reject it because my gender is my heart. It's within me. No paper can say, no paper can tell me who I am. Nobody can tell me who I am, what I want, whom should I love. I am also a proud lesbian. With this, some serious considerations of medical access in HRD, because I think it's very important that we also discuss it. Those who are planning to transition or going to avail transition in future or by any chance considering HRD, please do not panic. There will be things available for you. It's not end of the world. I've been hearing, because I have been running a group of 900 people strong. We have a community of 4,000 followers, 20 lakh reach, 2 lakh accounts reach right now, who are constantly messaging us for various things. So I'm hearing this again and again, Zina, what will happen to us? What will happen to us? Right? You will remain, you will exist. We are here with you, all of us. We are all fighting. We are not dead. And we won't be. Because Diana is still alive within me. And Diana is still alive. That's, I think, where I'm coming from. And with this, I think this bill also, it's not only undemocratic, it's completely casteist as well. You know? What you see here is 1% of 1%. And rest of it is in rural Indias, where we do not go, where we do not speak their languages, the languages that we do not understand also. They're living there, they do not have any access, they're not part of any institution. They're also not part of any system right now. Not at all. And they will not be having any chance of getting included in the system if this bill passes, which is getting tabled on Tuesday or Monday, I've been told, or Wednesday. But there's going to be a lot of support. It's going to be a long fight. We will probably have to look for Supreme Court. It is what it is. But I just wanted to say this one last thing. I think it's very important. Emily Dickinson once wrote that hope is a thing with feathers. Right? But I say that each of you is a feather. And feather together creates a wing. And there are many wings in this country now that are taking the bird towards its eventuality. Right? And this eventuality will be our liberation. Will be our liberation of ourselves, of loving us, of loving them. And with this, I conclude. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Zina, for your extremely powerful words. So we're going to continue with speeches, but at this moment I would also like to thank each one of you here for showing your solidarity and support. And I'd also like to thank a few people in particular. Cecil Rodriguez, Fernando Velo, Geeta Pandit, Dean De Cruz, Pooja Mitra, Tanya Devaya, Amreen Sheikh, Gauri Diwan, Sudeep, as well as friends and activists from the Armchair Mole movement and Heritage First Goa. Thank you all for your support and for your solidarity. We have coffee and tea on the stage. Please help yourself at any moment that you like. We also have restrooms here. And if you need any support and help, there are some folks with pink ribbons. You can approach them for help. Next we have a dear friend, lawyer and activist, Albertina Almeida.
Thank you. As I stand in front of you today, I remember two people. Dinah, of course, you all have spoken about, but one person who committed suicide at somewhere around the beginning of this century. I think it was in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. She was... Yes. She was an intersex athlete, and she went through the violence of this sex verification regime. And there was some issue with the coach, and the coach used it as a way to blackmail her and got it all out splashed in the media. And then she couldn't take it anymore, and she jumped into a well. Her name was Pratima Gaonkar. She jumped into a well and committed suicide. So the reason I'm talking about this is because this bill is going to go through these sex verification regimes, and we understand what these sex verification regimes are like in a scenario where, and I'm speaking of Goa, we have had a chief minister in Goa saying transgenders are God's mistake. Okay, so if we have this kind of a setting, you can understand what it will mean if the definition of transgender is narrowed in the way it is. This is one thing. The second thing is, as far as Dinah is concerned, apart from the various aspects that people spoke of, and there was the whole question when she, somewhere during COVID, she contracted some illnesses, and then the state hasn't, despite the NALSA judgment, the state hasn't really provided and made effective provisions for homes, etc. And facilities really for transgender persons. So what it meant is that when she was ill, she had to turn to her family, because the systems only know these things. And when she turned to her family, the family was always opposed to her coming out as a transgender person. And since they were opposed to her coming out as a transgender person, they wanted them to retain the male identity and the male name that they had been given at the time of birth. Now, she was not allowed access to the phone, and I'm saying this because I know this, I can say this personally, because I was coordinating a group called COVID-19 Goa People's Responses, and all of a sudden she was out of the group, and I knew that something was amiss, and then I realized that she's denied access by the family. Now, that is when the question arose as to what can we do. Now, even despite, now these laws are going to criminalize anybody who helps. But here, where the family is saying they are male, and then we try to go in and say, look, they're not male, and we will like to help them get out and get into a space that's better. Do we have the space for that? No. So if it was like that before this bill is being passed, what will it be after this bill is passed, where people who are trying to help will get penalized? So this is what the lived experiences must count, and this is what brings me to another issue, that if we are talking of laws anyway, any laws have to come through consultative processes based on the lived experiences of the people that are the stakeholders in that. This has not happened. As someone just narrated, the experience of the meeting, the recent meeting, I think about 2 or 3 days ago, which was supposed to be with the minister. The minister didn't show up, saying he was unwell, at the Government of India level I'm talking of. And they sent somebody else, and they said, we've decided what we want to do. Now, let me say for a minute that these provisions are, are debatable. But if these provisions are debatable, they have to be debated with all the people who are seen as the stakeholders in that community, and generally stakeholders on various issues concerning this. But that process has not happened. That's a process that activists all over the country have been speaking about, that any legislation has to be coming through consultative processes. And then we also have the 73rd and 74th Amendments, where people have insisted that laws have to be enacted, that our zoning, the space uses, etc., have to be through democratic processes of consultation. So now, in the face of all this, this is happening. But let me tell you, this is not an isolated law. This law is part of a continuum of several legislations happening in the country, and several legislations of those types in other parts of the country which are going to come into Goa. And I will give you 2 recent examples of legislation. One is the anti-conversion legislation. The anti-conversion legislation talks of allurement. And it gives such a broad definition of allurement that if someone is hungry, you're going to offer that person something to eat. And that person still chooses to convert. But because you offered that person something to eat, that means that person, you have allured that person into conversion. That is as how broad the definition of the word allurement is. And this is there in several of the anti-conversion laws that have come up in the rest of the country. पूण आमी कितें सगळीं म्हणटा म्हाका कित्याक पडला हें ट्रान्सजेंडराक लागता थिंगा आनी कोणाक लागता हांव काय हें न्हू. So my point is that when it comes to all kinds of minorities, all kinds of marginalized sections of people, these are the issues that are rising. So when it comes to conversion, our constitution guarantees a right to freedom of religion, a right to convert also. It includes the right to convert. Ambedkar, who is the founding father of our constitution, has converted. What more do you want? But the thing is that they are trying to curtail our fundamental rights. Okay, and the Chief Minister is talking about getting anti-conversion laws in this, and they keep on trying to flash some things in the news about some conversions taking place and forced conversions, etc. The point is, there's nothing that warrants the anti-conversion laws today, and in Goa. That's one law. Another law that has come, you see, they talk of uniform civil code, and it sounds quite interesting, you know. Oh, you know, they keep saying, oh, you know, you won't have Muslims with 4 wives, like Muslims with a man who can marry 4 wives, etc. But let me tell you, uniform civil code is not something by itself, you know, which is a great. Has come up with a uniform civil code bill. So this is what I'm trying to say. They're infantilizing people. They think they don't have the capacity to take their decisions about whether they're transgender or not. They don't have the capacity to do anything. Poor things, you know, we need to help them. So to help them, to help people, now the Gujarat Marriage Registration Amendment Bill, you know what does it say? It says that you have to, they have to say, the couple has to say when they go to register their marriage, that they have informed their parents. I'm not talking of children getting married here. I'm talking of adults getting married. They have informed their parents. Not only that, they have to give their Aadhaar numbers and mobile numbers of their parents. Now, if this is what, and together with it, they are also talking of some uniform civil code day. Now, this marriage registration thing will be uniformly applicable, okay, to everyone. So, if this is the kind of uniformity, let us not forget that in the name of, because here also they say in their statements of objects and reasons, this is to be able to streamline and enable people to properly access. But that is the language. They are appropriating the language and saying that for this, you know, uniformity so that women don't suffer, you see, and all that. Therefore, you know, they have to take permission of their parents basically. You see, it's so everybody is being infantilized at all levels, whether it's through anti-conversion laws, whether it's to marriage registration laws. So what I want to say, and not only at these levels, I shouldn't say not only, but not at these levels alone, but at also other levels. You have section 39A of the Town and Country Planning Act. What is it saying? You know, you people know. You don't know how to decide what zone, which should be the zone under which this property comes, or that area comes. You can't decide that, you know. You're like you don't have understandings. They're forgetting our innate knowledges, our local knowledges, our professional knowledges. So we, the government, shall decide for you. So you see, this is a pattern of laws that are taking place all over the country and also in Goa, and also coming to Goa, coming soon to Goa. That is why we all need to join hands across movements. And I am not ashamed to say, or not frightened to say, that I am speaking against the government. It is against the government because this government is coming out with these laws. If it was another government that was in, or some other party that was in power and was coming out with these laws, I would say yes, I am speaking against this government which is of this particular party. But just now it is a particular political party, it is the Bharatiya Janata Party that is ruling, and it is they who are in power. So I am speaking against the BJP ruled government. So therefore, in all this, I would say it is my call to everyone to join hands across movements, because they are infantilizing us as individuals, as communities, and as people. They say we don't have the ability to take our decisions. We have to stand up and say we have the ability, we have our knowledges, and we will take decisions. And processes have to be consultative before any legislation is enacted.
Thank you, Advocate Albertina Almeida. We really appreciate the wisdom that you share with us. And yes, we need to really come together across identities, across movements, across who we are, to be able to show up for each other. This is so heartwarming to be able to see so many people show up over here. Thank you, we really appreciate it. Next, we have Megha, who's going to sing. We are going to sing with Megha. Thank you.
Hello, hello? Hello, hello. Hi. Okay. So I have some announcements from the care team. So for folks who have just come in, just so you know, there's a group of people there whose only job is to make sure that you are well hydrated, well chaied up, and comfortable. So find a volunteer with a pink band around their wrist. There is chai, there is water. They told me to say something else. I'll return to this, but there's electrolytes. So find a volunteer if you need something. Okay, we're going to sing. I highly encourage you to move because you've been sitting for a while. So highly encourage, move, get up perfectly fine. We're going to sing a song that was written by some folks in Bombay. This is a song called Dil To Kacha Hai Ji. So, simple. I'm just going to sing the song first so you get a sense of it. There are words going around. There's a couple of printouts that we have. Rosh is there. Yes. So if you just like share a printout with a friend, get access to lyrics, it'll make life a bit easier. Okay, good. So this is a song that you may be familiar with because of Bollywood. Thank you. And so we've just changed a couple of lyrics and we will sing together. For those of you who have received this by message, you will see that at some point, and thank you San for calling attention to this very important spelling mistake. At some points I have typed out Dil To Kacha Hai Ji, and at other points I have said Pura Kacha Hai Ji. You can see that this is an important distinction to make because Kacha is raw, baseless, nothing, and Kacha on the other hand is underwear. I think you should feel free to change that imagery in your head, like play with it. If you feel like you want to go Dil To Kacha Hai Ji, that's fine. If you want to go Dil To Kacha Hai Ji, highly encourage you to imagine that. No worries at all. Good. Okay, this is how it goes. Oh, Kala, I need hands to clap. Can you hold the mic? So I'm just going to sing this so you have a sense of it, and then we'll go into call and response, which means that I will sing one line and you will echo it back at me. I am the person standing at the edge of the mountain and you are the mountain, so you have to echo it back at me. Otherwise I'm just some lonesome person standing at the edge and the mountain isn't singing something back at me. So highly encourage you to do that. Okay. कैसे पूछे बिना ये बना डाला बिल, कैसे पूछे बिना ये बना डाला बिल, कौन है हम ये हमको बताएंगे फिर, मेरी पहचान मेरे ही अंदर छुपी, डॉक्टर साहिब की हमको जरूरत नहीं, सब्जी नहीं है, भाजी नहीं है, इस बिल से बिल्कुल राजी नहीं है। हक अपना हक ऐसे अपनाना छोड़ेंगे जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, पूरा कच्चा है जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, पूरा कच्चा है जी। And then we'll end with a bill to and screaming kacha hai ji. Okay, so let's do this together now. Okay. कैसे पूछे बिना ये बना डाला बिल। Okay, then mountain say back to me. कैसे पूछे बिना ये बना डाला बिल। कौन है ये, कौन है हम, ये हमको बताएंगे फिर। कौन है हम, ये हमको बताएंगे फिर। मेरी पहचान मेरे ही अंदर छुपी, मेरे पहचान मेरे ही अंदर छुपी। डॉक्टर साहिब की हमको जरूरत नहीं, डॉक्टर साहिब की हमको जरूरत नहीं। सब्जी नहीं है, भाजी नहीं है, सब्जी नहीं है, भाजी नहीं है, इस बिल से बिल्कुल राजी नहीं है, इस बिल से बिल्कुल राजी नहीं है। हक ऐसे अपनाना छोड़ेंगे जी, अपनाना छोड़ेंगे जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, पूरा कच्चा है जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, पूरा कच्चा है जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी। This last one has to be a little bit better, yeah. So I'll go bill to. Yeah, we'll do one more. Just try to get this last part right. Okay, so the last part is bill to kacha hai ji. Okay, bill to kacha hai ji. I think we can do better. Okay, once last. Okay, bill to kacha hai ji. Yes. Okay, now we'll sing this all together. There's no call and response. You're with me. I am with you. The mountains are singing with me. Okay. कैसे पूछे बिना ये बना डाला बिल। कौन है हम, ये हमको बताएंगे फिर। मेरी पहचान मेरे ही अंदर छुपी, डॉक्टर साहिब की हमको जरूरत नहीं। सब्जी नहीं है, भाजी नहीं है, इस बिल से बिल्कुल राजी नहीं है। ऐसा अपनाना छोड़ेंगे जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, पूरा कच्चा है जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी, पूरा कच्चा है जी, बिल तो कच्चा है जी।
Thank you so much, Megha. Next we have Juliana Lohar, a human rights activist and a fellow global and a Ford Global Fellow, as well as the founder of Anyay Rahit Zindagi, an organization working with commercially exploited cis and transgender sex workers in Goa. Welcome, Juliana.
After the melodious singing okay? I'm going to be talking more about the ground reality. First, I would begin by asking who has asked for the amendment of this bill? And why do we have to gather here seeking for not to amend the bill? As already said, my name is Juliana Lohar. I work in an NGO called OURS, where we work with victims of sex trafficking, sexual violence, and the transgender community. When we had the Transgender Act in 2019, things became much easier for us to work. Why do I say so? Because Goa is the only state where we had transgender community who voted as transgender. How was this possible? This was possible because we had the Transgender Act. The collector found it mandatory to issue certificate. Yes. Was it easy for the transgender community to get the certificate? No. How did they get it? We had a sensitive officer, an IAS officer who understood the issue. And we had the transgender community like Madhu who's here, and a lot of the transgender community who are on the streets, who are begging in the railway station, who are victims of commercial sexual exploitation. In Goa, they managed to get their transgender certificate, get their voters' identity, and cast their vote as transgender and not as male or female. They got their own identity. This was easy because we helped them, went to the collector, they got the certificates. अब internet में करने का था, मिलके वो IAS officer बैठा कर लिया. If there is an amendment, what is going to happen today? Do you think it's going to be possible for them to get the certificate? Doctor certificate चाहिए, किधर से लेकर आएगा उन लोग doctor certificate? We are talking about these persons who have been disowned by family. Family has put them out. Family has not accepted them. They have been on the street. They have lived away in groups. Do you think they're going to trust the state? Do you think they have the capacity to go and get a doctor's certificate to prove their identity? Who has asked for this amendment? And is this amendment necessary? I think it's important we need to hear the voices of the transgender community and give them what they want. Include them in all aspects of the society. Madhu, I think, will be speaking. She has been appointed by the state. Today she has an identity. She's living like any one of us because she's proud of her own identity through a simple certificate of the transgender certificate. So I think it's important, if you're asking for amendment, we need to hear the voices of the transgender community. Are we looking at the amendment? We have the Transgender Act. Has anyone reviewed it? Is there an audit done on that act? Have we looked at what about the youngsters? The youngsters who have an identity crisis. They don't know what to do. They are teased in school. They are ragged in school. They are disowned by the family. Is there any services for them apart from what is in the Act of Vocational Training? Nahi Baba, the Act needs to have services for these youngsters, a space where they can speak, a space where they can know about themselves. So I think it is important we need to see how that provision is in the Act too. And the last point that I would like to add is we've had a lot of the transgender community that we work with, as I've said. They have come and they have said is people are taking their identity, especially those who are begging, especially those who are at the bus stop, those who are at the railway station. They have been saying that there are some male who wear sari, goes and begs, and what happens? अगर कोई बच्चा का चोरी हुआ, कुछ बच्चा का चोरी हुआ तो ये ट्रांसजेंडर्स को पकड़ते हैं, वो आदमी लोग साड़ी बदल के एक आदमी बन जाता है. So I think it's important that somewhere we look at this community also and letting the transgender have their identity, including them in the society like any one of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juliana. Next we have Nishi.
Nishi of Inshallah Babes fame.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nishi. I have been working in mutual aid and community care. When trans people are abandoned by institutions, healthcare institutions, educational institutions, they often turn into informal systems of care. And because trans people are abandoned by families, relatives, institutions, informality is the place they make their own. I want to talk briefly about informal systems of care that trans people rely on. Trans people rely on community not just in times of crisis, but for day-to-day care and survivability. If under this bill, any form of deviation from binary gender is suspect, then the freedom that mobility affords trans people collapses. What I mean by that is, if I go to a friend's place to try on a dress because I can't wear one at home, the bill makes it its business to know this. It can call it allurement and coercion. If I wear lipstick in public, the bill makes it its business. It threatens the private and public ways in which one expresses their gender. If you affirm a friend by calling them by their chosen name, you can go to prison for affirming their gender identity. If a kind stranger from the internet gives refuge to a trans person who is being abused and raped at home, the bill calls it kidnapping, even if the refuge is consensual. Again, consent is immaterial to the bill. My friend, Jay, a trans woman who escaped forced sex work last year, has been living in the refuge of a cis person's family. I need to mention it's a cis person's family. A lot of people, including healthcare professionals, where trans persons unexpectedly find kindness, are often cis. And it is also this sociality of care that is threatened. Anyway, while my friend was out on a walk in her neighborhood, she was traced and kidnapped by the police and pushed into sex work again. She somehow managed to escape a second time. In a country where the state is the one doing the kidnapping, what does it mean to give it further legitimacy under law? This is not a rhetorical question. In my friend's case, the police stalked her till they found a time and place to kidnap her into the car, harass her, and return her to forced sex work. If this bill is implemented, they don't need stealth. They have the authority to tear down the door of your apartments and do that. With the threat of police looming, options for refuge will vanish. I want to mention Mahira, a trans woman, an activist, a friend who we lost in the beginning of this year to familial violence and medical neglect. She died of multiple health complications, of which the fatal one was tuberculosis meningitis that precipitated from AIDS. The day after she died, her brother called me, demanding to know why we called her Mahira and why her health degenerated so drastically. I told him she was called Mahira because that's what she wished to be called. It's the name she chose for herself. It was as simple as that. He couldn't accept that. He kept referring to her by her dead name and kept asking, how can you call a boy by a girl's name? As to why her health degenerated so drastically, it was because he thrashed her a few months ago before she passed, and her health went to shit after that. She could barely walk. When he heard that, he shifted the blame to the friends that cared for her all these years she was escaping family. He said it was AIDS that killed her, and it is because of us that she got AIDS. He said this for two reasons. Firstly and foremostly, to delude his own conscience of his complicity in his sister's murder. Secondly, more direct to this bill, to construct a narrative around shifting the responsibility of her death from himself to the friends that she found love and care in. Under this bill, his blame would find legal legitimacy. Instead of living with his damned soul, he can outsource and clear his conscience in the court of law. To summarize, this bill is giving legislation to maintain trans people's destitution. The bill, much like Native families, calls policing care. As Albertina said earlier, it is appropriating language. It calls medical care forced conversion. It calls saving life kidnapping. It wants trans people to die in their natal houses, in the streets. It takes away the one thing that we are left with, our right to expression. Trans people abandon the world to be trans. This bill takes away that also.
Thank you so much, Nishi. Next we have San, who is also an educator.
Hi everyone, my name is San and I'm an educator. A couple of years ago I had the privilege to meet a mother of two transgender teenagers, and this mother supports her children, and which is such a rare thing, as many people have addressed already. A lot of trans people, trans children are thrown out into the streets if they are not beaten up or worse in their natal families. So we need to understand how rare it is to even have a parent like this who is supporting her two children. And I'm here to read out a letter that this mother has written, an open letter to the government of India, and let's see what she has to say. I am a cisgender mom to two non-binary teenagers who are Indian and live in India. I'm calling for the Indian government to urgently do everything in its power to promote and protect the civil rights of all persons in India by calling for the rejection of the Transgender Person Protection of Rights Amendment Bill 2026. This bill will subject trans and non-binary people to immeasurable trauma, hardship, harassment, and public denouncement of their identities, while also informing the general public through law that the trans community cannot be trusted, and encourage crimes with impunity against a marginalized and increasingly vulnerable community. I appeal to the government to reject this bill and instead focus on much needed programs that support the full inclusion and protection of transgender and non-binary people through educational programs and awareness campaigns within medical and legal institutions and civil society that helps safeguard our trans and non-binary children. Needless to say, these awareness initiatives should always be overseen and guided by members of the trans community and to ensure the accuracy of its content. My children are regular children who do regular things and they lead regular lives. Their only crime, if this bill is passed, is that they know who they are and want to lead an honest life that's true to themselves. Nobody has the right to take away their autonomy, dictate their gender identity and how they should lead their lives. It's personal and nobody's business, no different from what a parent with a cisgender child would expect or tolerate. Additionally, this bill criminalizes primary caregivers and support groups, which includes parents. My kids and I are terrified at the possibility that my children, whom I love more than life itself, will be taken from me because I chose to do the right thing and provide a happy, wholesome life for them. The care given to children and youth with gender dysphoria is tailored to their specific needs by a team of highly trained healthcare providers, including pediatricians, mental health specialists, and endocrinologists. We care for our kids deeply and should be supported, not criminalized for being good parents. Transgender kids all across the country are listening to what you say and watching what you do. The act of writing bills like this, holding hearings and casting votes sends a direct message to them. You aren't real to us. We don't believe you when you tell us who you are. Your existence is dangerous to the other kids around you. We are okay if you feel lonely, isolated, and unwelcome. We are willing to take away even the smallest concessions that have been made for you because we have power and you don't. Research shows that gender-affirming care and a climate of inclusivity provides long-term mental health benefits for transgender people, including a reduction in suicidal ideation. We've lost so many precious lives to suicide because of our hatefulness and bigotry. Shame on those who have and are enabling this, and shame on those who witness in silence. You are enablers too. Shame. This bill blatantly denies protection to the trans community. Instead, government officials are given the right to traumatize you by requiring for trans and non-binary people to explain and justify their genders in a public setting in front of government-appointed medical committees and bigoted officials. I am infuriated with this bill, and you should be too, because this is an attempt for politics to infringe on a person's freedom of self-determination. If this bill is passed, it will empower corrupt entities to target everyone's right to freedom eventually. Nobody is safe with these policies. This bill also alarmingly attempts to punish persons within and outside the transgender community who help destitute trans and non-binary people access care and support when they have nowhere else to go, and seeks to punish them and harm a population of people already marginalized by stigma, bullying and harassment. Can you believe that? It takes away from someone who has nowhere to go, whose birth family has thrown them out, often when they are minors on the streets, whose life is now at great risk from being raped, trafficked and killed. This bill ensures that this person is left alone and defeated. How can anyone be okay with this? Another reason this bill should be viewed with skepticism is that it was drafted with no meaningful consultation with transgender communities, the stakeholders whose lives will be directly and adversely impacted. There are clauses in this bill that require for a trans person to prove their gender based on a set of criteria that is not a reality within the trans community. Many transgender people experience gender dysphoria and some seek medical treatments such as hormone replacement therapy, gender-affirming surgeries or psychotherapy. Not all transgender people desire these treatments and some cannot undergo them for financial or medical reasons. Will these people then be denied their gender identity? Trans people just want to exist. Why is that so hard for the cisgender community to accept? Where is the inclusivity, the compassion, the humanity? What has happened to our empathy? It is important to note that those who support the subjugation and atrocities on another human are perpetuating a climate of violence that will surely come straight back to their own loved ones in some form or the other. We are never safe and we will never be at peace while creating unsafe environments for others. I call on government policymakers to immediately reject this bill that creates a heartbreakingly unsafe and degrading life for an already struggling, marginalized community and instead commit to meaningfully advancing policies that equally support all citizens. Please, please stop abusing our kids by creating legislations that target them. Please listen to us. Our kids' lives are at stake. Signed, a concerned mother.
Thank you so much, San. Next we have Elroy, an independent researcher and poet.
Thank you, Andy. I just created a very short speech today morning because I felt like I wanted to speak on the matter. I've read the bill almost twice or thrice. Before I was also a part of the editing team, so I had to read and reread the bill, and to a very great extent, I would like to start my speech by saying that the bill smacks of patriarchy. It tells us to conform to a particular normative behavior, the heteronormative behavior, or else be muted and disenfranchised. It is an epistemic violence that is a total disregard to a way of living and a way of knowing this world, that is the transgender perspective. Especially it is epistemic violence against trans men, trans women, trans masc, trans feminine and gender queer individuals, because these are the very individuals which are being deleted from the definition under the Act of 2019. It misrepresents the transgender community for the obvious reason that there is no transgender minister in our parliament. The bill shows how ill-informed the centre is in dealing with the community. This makes a very strong case for a transgender minister. And I say this in the backdrop of Nepal, which has its first federal parliament recently and its first transgender minister elected to their parliament. Something that India can learn. I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. The bill was formed without sufficient consultation with the community. What does this say when a bill is formed without sufficient consultation with the relevant community? It means to say that the government cares nothing for the agency of the transgender community. It does not believe that the transgender community is capable of thinking for itself, and it in fact provides agency to, it presumes what the community wants. And what does it presume? It presumes and promotes its prejudices. In this manner, the bill is an exercise in suppressing the voice of the trans community. While I was reading the bill, I also realized that the use of legal classification to determine who counts as a right-bearing subject has troubling historical precedent. It took me back to the Nazi regime, how the Nazi passed laws against the Jews, wherein the Jews were debarred from practicing law or from practicing medicine. It seems that this is what the Transgender Amendment Bill does. Some say, and rightly so, that this is a bill which is a kacha bill. But it can also be seen as a pakka bill of prejudice and hate, because that is what it promotes. It promotes the prejudice and hate of the mainstream society. The Act of 2019 already stands challenged in the Swati Bidhan Bharua versus Union of India matter before the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional. For what reasons does it stand questioned? Because two of the reasons that I can state is punishment for sexual abuse against transgender person are less than it is for sexual abuse against a woman. The second reason why it stands questioned as unconstitutional is the bureaucratic certification of identity as being opposed to the principle of the Nalsa judgment. This bill, that is the 2026 bill, could have been a bill that cures these problems in the Act of 2019. But what does the bill do? It says that no, we are right. We will move forward with what we think is right. This bill could have been used to cure the Act of 2019, but the government chose to inflict more hardship on the community through the new definition of transgender, further bureaucratic certification, and the creation of offences which acts as a potential threat on the support system of the community. In my personal experience as well, I am a gender fluid person. When I travel in public transport, mostly people choose not to sit with me because they think I look weird, I don't conform to gender norms. But it happened repeatedly, and I realized that it's because of my gender identity. I feel this is what they think, the commuters. How do I classify this person? I better sit elsewhere, is probably the thought process of these commuters. Yesterday, I was out with my favorite fancy shopping bag, which has an imprint of a girl with her hair left out and riding a bike. I think she's transgender. I wished to purchase stationery for one of my placards, and while returning home, a group of men immediately giggled and later burst in laughter after I passed them. This happens pretty often, so I'm quite used to it. From a very early age, I was informed that I was a bizoon. You know what's a bizoon? Yes? Or a bile or a ladies. These are pejorative words which are used against effeminate men. And this is how I was introduced to the woman in me. And when I accepted the woman in me, and when I embraced my gender identity, what does the government do? the government says, no, I do not have the right to self-determine my identity. As a teacher, I have taught for almost 3 years. Currently, I am pursuing some of my research, so I'm on a break from teaching. But as a teacher, I always highlighted the queer perspective, and this is in government higher educational institutions. I included it in the interpretation of literature, in debates, group discussions, and examinations. And like always, you have people who will support you and people who will not support you. Some of my students were kind enough to support me, but some homophobic students were not, right? So some of them went and complained to the principal, and I was immediately summoned to the principal's chamber. And the principal inquired with me, Elroy, what are you doing? Why are you engaging in activism? Please engage in teaching. And my response to that was, sir, I am actually engaging in teaching the realities of this world. And thank you very much. And you know what their response was? And this is a renowned education institution in Panjim. Their response was, trans people have their own places. This is not for them. This place is not for them. This is an education institution, a higher education institution in Panjim. This is the state of affairs. This is the mainstream, idea towards transgender individuals. There is a deep-rooted prejudice against the queer community. Queerness is viewed as a disease by the mainstream Indian society. The Supreme Court has already passed orders directing the state government to spread awareness that queerness is not a disease. I filed relevant RTIs, and the RTI response tell me that the state of Goa has not done anything in this regard. I would like to lastly reaffirm that the current bill is a bill of hate and must be rejected. Trans rights are human rights. I've also published 2 poetry books. Actually, I've self-published them. So I'd like to read, in conclusion, one of my poetry. Could you just hold this? I'm a nervous wreck at the moment. The title of my poem is Queer and Sassy. I was sensitive and sassy. I was feminine and racy. Confident and a woman, but for society, no less than an omen. The lady told me I was an abomination, that I'll burn in the fires of hell. My classmates, teachers, and friends bullied me to their heart's content. They asked with contempt, why do you walk like that? Why do you talk like that? They inflicted gashes on my most tender heart. These are the gashes. Bile, Baizuan, Punzo, Baizon, Hijda, ladies, used as pejoratives. Their wild sniggers still echo in my mind. I metamorphosed into a cocoon where I lay dejected for years together. My only pals, the sea, the stars, and the moon, until I responded feather by feather. I took flight, releasing myself from the shackles of religion, society, and shame. I walk with the same sassiness today. I talk with the same sassiness, and the world hasn't changed much. For I beget the same contempt, though subtle, for they know not to take me on. For to take me on is to confront not just me, but my history of struggles, history of shame and contempt. So bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elroy. I'll be sharing my own experience.
Andy, sorry, just one notice before. Swabu's taking this banner to that side. Folks who are leaving, before you do, please go meet Swabu. This is a poster of the journey of what a campaign is. This is the start. We have a long way to go. This is a banner that we are going to keep building on with every protest. Before you leave, please go meet Swabu. Swabu, please, can you raise your hand? There's Swabu. And write messages onto the banner. And they'll give you the prompt. Thank you. Sorry, Andy.
Thank you so much, Elroy, for sharing your personal narrative. A lot of what Elroy shared is something which is almost very complimentary and something that is also very shared. I come from a small island in Goa, and my experiences of childhood are also moments which were fraught with a lot of discomfort with my own gender. I remember being called, within 2 minutes of people meeting me would call me Bison, Baila, Hijra, Chakka. These are words, Ladis, these are words used against children. And every time these words were uttered at me, there was something within me that would actually kind of shrivel up. And I would feel lesser of a person. And I think that was also one of the primary reasons why when I got the chance to leave Goa, I left it in the first instance. I know that for a lot of us, when we hear these words as children in our schools, these are words that are continue to be used against people, particularly in their childhood and mostly in playgrounds. And these words, where you have a bill that is going to be passed, which is actually looking at one's biological intersex condition. But our gender is not just merely about that. It's also about our relationship with our own bodies. And the kind of discomfort that we experience happens in relationship with other people. The way other people make us feel about ourselves and who we are. Every time a child is told to dress in a particular way, that makes them sometimes feel uncomfortable with themselves. Every time a child is asked to cut their hair or to grow their hair in a particular length, those are moments of great discomfort with one's own body. Every time words are uttered and we are told how to stand and how to sit, all of these are moments of great anxiety for some children. And I think sometimes as educators, as neighbors, as parents, we have a responsibility to allow people to be whom they want. In my case, I was lucky because when I had these moments of feeling feeling uncomfortable with myself, I realized that I had one way to survive. The only way that I could survive was perhaps do well in my studies, so that would give me an edge. But I know that that's not an option for so many people. And therefore, a lot of people resort to suicide, unfortunately. I remember as a young child, how terrible I felt that day when I read about Pratima Gonkar, when I read the newspaper. And I felt even more terrible when I got to know of how someone was just wanting to live a life of respect, and unfortunately in her death, her secret was revealed. And that's the irony, that something that she wanted to carry to her death kind of also became a narrative for public memory. And in honor of all of this, in honor of the so many suicides that happen because of the kind of gender and sexualities that we want to live respectfully, and which unfortunately society does not allow, we have hopefully to change the narrative. I believe that some of those words which are used to discriminate should actually become words of empowerment. If somebody wants to be the Bison or the Chakka or the Hijra, or the Ladis or the Eastok, let them be. They have the right to be. And we need to celebrate that and embrace those words to live our life in all its multiplicity, in all its complexity. As an educator now, I have the privilege of encountering, of teaching gay students, lesbian students, transgender students who actually feel comfortable enough to open about themselves. And I think sometimes those moments when a student comes and privately shares about themselves, and when we cry together, those are moments of great solidarity. Those are moments of great hope. But now with this bill, what's going to happen, that even these moments of showing solidarity, of offering support to one another, of even, like I remember in the instance when Diana was going through her own difficult time, you know, all of these moments of even showing solidarity to one another can also penalize us, and we can, each of us, be put in jail for years together, and we become criminals in the eyes of the law with this regressive amendment bill that is going to be passed if it does. And therefore we need to raise our voices, we need to live our lives and express our points of view and our right to exist in all its difference, in all its multiplicity. Thank you, everyone.